I'm Angus the Beefy. This is my red and shoulder shield tutorial. A bit of disclaimer, this is going to be an advanced tutorial. This is not going to cover any of the fundamentals of red. I'm specifically talking the dynamic of having a shoulder shield while using a red and all the different variations that there is within that style. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is grips. So this is going to be your standard grip. This is called shovel grip. This is my favorite grip and most red fighters' favorite grip because it offers a variety of things. The main points being wraps on sword side are easier. The second thing being your defense is a lot easier to cover your whole body, right? So that's called shovel grip. The next grip that we're talking about with red is going to be called oar grip, which is done with both hands down like so. This gives you better leverage with your weapon, so you can do more powerful strikes. Move your opponent more to their shield. You can also get down lower and come in for thrusts, which is a very big part of the stance, I would say, as your most common opponent is going to be a righty sword and board fighter. Right? There's also the third grip, which is called spearman's grip, which is going to be your standard grip just turned upside down, essentially like this, with your backhand swap and your top hand swap. This is very good for stabbing people in the head. It's also good if you're behind the shield line. Whereas normally you would have your spearmen and your reds fighting about right here. If you're using this overhand grip, you can now fight above and thrust down. Right? Not a super useful grip, not recommended. Alright, so next is going to be shoulder shield. The placement of the shoulder shield dictates your matchup. Getting back to it, your shield shoulder is going to determine your play style, essentially. So when you're wearing your shield on your left shoulder, what this is going to give you is you're going to be fighting a righty versus righty matchup. For example, if you look at our stance, we're both righty sword and borders, right? So he's going to be fighting his most comfortable matchup while I am as well. So this is very good, probably primarily when you're using your shovel grip, is going to be just for chopping shields, like this. Passive defense, chopping shields. Your opponent is going to be looking for lots of high crosses and probably leg hip area too there. However, if you swap to murder grip, or sorry, I forgot to explain. Board grip can also be used or called murder grip, what some people refer to it as. So if you come into murder grip like so, now my sword board opponent is fighting a lefty with a lot of fucking leverage, right? Because now I have strikes that come down through his center line right here. I have strikes that come into his hip, and I can power through his shield guard to get those juicy bits right there. This is especially effective when you're using a pole. Like so, because now I can pummel into his grip like so, or I mean his guard. So yeah, stabs are also pretty effective.
Before you move on, do you want to switch places with Nate and show the same stuff again real quick? To get both sides of it?
Good idea. So you can see it from here. He's in a righty. I have all these strikes here.
Yep, and that's oar grip.
Side, which is usually the open spot. Come in like so, thrusts. Because while you're doing these strikes and you have all this extra leverage, you're going to have that passive defense right in front of you. You can also do things such as swiping down and then popping up. In addition, this stance is also exceptionally good at defense, because when he comes up, while I'm striking, I'm shutting off the lane with my pole, right? And while he's going on this side, I also have a shield here, where I can pop up like so. Swipe at leg, do whatever.
Hey, it's good.
Do all that. It's even better with a 6-foot pole. Well, I won't say even better. Probably in like a dueling standpoint, it's probably going to be better to have a 6-foot because you can pull it in a lot tighter. Do this kind of thing while still getting red shots off in the meantime. All right, I'm gonna get back into it. So this is gonna be the right arm shield. This is gonna be, this is my preference. This is gonna force your right-handed shield opponent to be fighting into a lefty matchup, which is gonna be typically quite uncomfortable for them. Which is similar when you're using a pull and you're using the oar grip. They are kind of fighting a lefty, but the difference being is that you have to come across your body to get shots like this. You can't throw wraps. When you're throwing with the shovel grip, wraps are now a thing, and you're protected, which is the biggest thing when you're fighting red and you throw a wrap. You're open on this entire side while you're throwing it. So what is a great shot when you have a sword and shield is mediocre for a red. But once you get the shoulder shield, this changes the game, because now I can throw wraps on his sword arm, on his hip, and I'm protected. In addition, I can do the same thing, pull it in, throw stabs, right? This is my preferred kit for Amp Guard because you can't break shields, and getting around their sword arm is especially effective in this kit. Also, a lot of sword and shield fighters don't know how to fucking deal with it. So, really, I guess, I mean, that covers, draw swings. This is a kind of a separate topic. This is a red fundamental, but someone had brought up, what the fuck is a draw swing? So a draw swing is going to be where you strike and you pull the weapon back as you're swinging like this to set up for another strike. It also prevents you from overcommitting to your red shots, where if you're throwing a strike like this versus that, you're now protected. If you choose to fight in a mirror matchup, if you're a righty sword and shield versus a lefty sword and shield, you want to use these strikes a lot to protect your hand and your arm as you strike them. So that's something you can also do with red. If you throw wraps, you can bring them in, and then throw shots after that. You can bring them in and chop this way and be ready to come in again. And once again, you can do the mirror matchup of dropping your tip down in shovel grip and having that static defense where you can block all of your openings. Another guard that opens up when you're in this stance with a shovel grip is going to be a tip back stance. So whereas normally you'd want to keep your tip forward as a red fighter, this now enables you to use a tip back stance like this to block wraps and other things that are going deeper into your shield. Because once you've blocked here, you can now bring it down in. And that's an especially effective method of killing people that are not expecting you to do such a thing. Right. So the mentality of the red and shoulder shield play style is going to be, it gives you a lot more defense and survivability, so you're able to kind of sustain yourself a lot easier against the sword and shield opponent. Or if you're fighting a pull or something, you can do something like that. Similarly, just by knocking out of the way and just using the passive defense as if they were fighting a sword and shield fighter. So the mentality behind it is going to be basically the same as fighting red, but now while they're engaging you, they're going to have this kind of innate panic that comes along with rushing a greatsword fighter. Except for now, while they're panicking, they're having to fight what is essentially a pseudo sword and shield fighter that can also break their shield. And you can use that to your advantage to easily get around them, get the hell away, throw lots of strikes against their legs and their arms, and just try and find an opening, you know. And in addition, you also do have that leverage and power that reds generate. So not only are they panicking about the shield breaking, but you can throw, I mean, going back to red wraps, I love red wraps. Holy crap, I love red wraps. But you can now throw strike into some stank. And when you throw that stank, it's going to crush through their guard a lot easier. Let's see. What else do I want to talk about? Circular swings. A lot of red fighters like to choppy, choppy, chop. Chop, chop, chop. Right? You can even throw wraps. And you can throw them like this all day. But when you start throwing circular swings like this, some of you might know of my lesson where I did rowing the boat. This is kind of a similar thing. You throw strikes like this, just to keep your shield forward and keep your blade moving, because you don't want to stop as often, because if your blade stops, they can punish you. What else do we have? Defense. Footwork is your main defense. Keeping your distance from your opponent. This is basic red fundamentals. You're going to do essentially the same thing, but the one difference is going to be that you can now rotate with your shield to block shots and get openings just by rotating your body like so. That's going to be something you want to do. Like when I was talking about the tip up stance, you can rotate your body to get blocks on this side or right there. And that's going to be something you want to practice while you're doing it to make sure that you know where this shield is at all times. Yeah. Last point, how to beat it. The fundamental weakness of this stance is what I just talked about, is that a lot of your defense is going to be from moving your body into swings to blocking things. Now, what's the best way to make your body move in a way in such that you get killed? Fakes, feints, and all of that nature. Oh, I went to block this, now he's got my back. Or, oh, I went to block this, and now I'm open. Murder grip does not have, war grip does not have this issue as much, because if you fake here, you're not as overcommitting, because you're moving the elbow to get the shoulder shield back, which in a sense can also get swings off at the bottom if you're using a 6-foot. Right? With this though, with this stance, it's easier to beat them by using lots of wraps. Because when you throw a wrap, I have to come way in to block it, or I have to shove my shield out like this. And you can still do it and pop in and get kills off of it. But it is something to keep in mind. That's how you beat them, and that's how people are going to try to beat you usually. I think that's all I got.